and he said, "Hi, my name's Anubis." I think. I don't know. I talked to him one other
Anubis.
time the entire semester.
He was constantly playing video games and yelling, which I'm not sure if you could hear it.
Oh yeah,
Probably
it's
not as well as
not as
I
much as
could, but he
you.
was. Oh my gosh, what an interesting guy! And he would order the delivery food every single
Every
day.
single day.
And that's the only time I would see him come out of his room. He would just emerge and go get his food and go right back in. And he was a mystery, but he was a nice guy. I
Wait,
remember
you
one time I locked myself out of my room and I had to, which happened all too often, unfortunately. And I knocked on his door and we shared a balcony. And so I asked if he would hop over the balcony and, or if I could hop over the border in the balcony and go into my room from the balcony. And he allowed me to do it. And therefore he was a really nice guy. But yeah, one of my only interactions in a time of need. Anubis. I'm so happy you remember that name.
how could I ever forget?
Yeah, I was just telling my friend this past weekend about Dwin Kong and his singing abilities.
He was incredible.
He's the first Malaysian person I ever met, and I was told by another friend I met while abroad that Malaysian singers are known to be have very beautiful voices, the male singers especially. Um, and then I learned some other singers from friends that were also Malaysian and really popular in China. But he had, I still to this day think it was the most beautiful voice I've ever listened to. It was so unique. And do you remember when we went to his singing
Singing,
competition
it
too?
was so good, yeah. And
It was
my
so
favorite
good.
though was when he would just sing in his room, like,
Right. It
and it
sounded
was
better.
you just hear it through the walls, and it was like, oh, and he would always cook for his like girlfriend downstairs.
Oh yeah. He was such a sweet guy.
He was.
I message him every now and then.
Do you really?
And yeah, I do. Well, I was asking him to like recommend some more Chinese music because I wanted to listen to some more to like study a bit
Hmm.
a few months ago or something. And he just always responds immediately with like, you can type ha 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 in Chinese and there's like the characters for ha ha ha. So he always types like 10 like ha 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 ha's every time. He's just such a jolly guy.
We made so many amazing friends there, and I think it's one of like the best and the worst parts. That because at Fudan you're in the foreign students dorm area, um, we didn't really make a whole lot of Chinese friends. Um, but I know we made so many amazing friends from like all over the world.
And that is easily one of the most desirable and memorable aspects. And one of the things I'm most thankful for about the experience is how wide of a range of nations and cultures people had come from and all been in the same place, dealing with the same struggles that we dealt with at the beginning. And because of that, it made it so easy to befriend people from all over, trying to figure out where they are in this huge city and where their place is. And yeah, I mean, it was almost immediate, which all of the stresses and stuff were made a lot easier because of that. And it would have been nice to have some more Chinese friends sprinkled in as well, just sprinkled in as well, just honestly just for the language practice. But in general, it would have been nice too. um, yeah, I mean that's so special because I know a lot of other American study abroad experiences are mainly with all American students.
Yeah, and what
And
we knew like three.
right, like they're like us, and then like Alana from St. Mary's, and a few others in the group. But
Yeah,
other than that, it was
yeah.
all over the world.
So we went to Hotowan was the name of it, right?
Mhm.
It was this
Otawan.
abandoned fishing village off the coast of Shanghai on an island with another much more successful fishing village. Um, just this, it was like going back in time, and it wasn't even that old. The place had been operational until like the 70s, right?
I think like the 80s. I think
And it was just
something like
like
that.
just covered in vines, and we definitely were not supposed to be inside the buildings, but we were anyway.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, you could tell that they once were very successful because the structures were still almost completely intact,
yeah,
and they didn't have that much wear and tear. They just had so much growth of
Yeah.
vines and things like that.
Well, yeah, because
But
it wasn't abandoned because it was abandoned because it was too successful. Their port couldn't support the throughput anymore. That's a nice
right,
problem to
yeah,
have.
yeah, seriously, and yeah, it was such a like a spectacle to see that there. It was eerie, but it was beautiful at the same time. That was such a cool trip. And do you remember at night when we left? We went there to explore during the day, and then went back to town to get dinner. And then remember telling all the people that we were going there to stay the night. Do you remember their reactions?
Yes, they. Let me see if I can remember. We asked them why we shouldn't, and I believe they told us that there were mosquitoes and wolves.
Yeah, they did. They said wolves come around there. And I said, don't worry, we've prepared well. And then we just walked away and we walked like the 20-minute walk up the large hill to get
Which was
there,
some of the
or
most
longer.
terrifying. Like
It
that was like
was
the most
freaky.
terrifying. Remember the guy with like the headlamp? It was like a roving
I hated that.
cyclops.
I hated that so much. Yeah, because it was like winding roads. You're ascending at like a pretty rapid rate on this street, and it's completely foggy and misty. And at the top of the this island where we had to get up to before we like descended back down into this abandoned village, that's where all of the fog had like accumulated up there. It was dense, and I remember Nils. I remember thinking of it like we were on like some sort of like mission, and Nils was like, "All right, like Aaron, like you walk in the back, like Peyton walk behind me, or like Alex walk behind me, Peyton, then you next, and just like follow close." And we descend down these steps into a foggy abyss.
We Do you remember that night there was a group of students filming in the village as well?
Yes,
So
of
they
course.
had the huge spotlights and that gigantic bonfire they built down on the docks, and you and Nils like snuck down to get close.
That was so freaky. Like, because we had met some people during the day who said they kind of like were staying there. Do you remember that? Like right before we
Yes,
left for the
yes.
food. And they said they were like college students or like media students or something. And like I couldn't fully understand what they were saying, but I remember something like that and that they were staying there. Um, and yeah, I remember like hearing people in the dark village and all of a sudden spotlights all over the place. I was so freaked out. Like my mind was racing with possibilities of who was there at that time. And yeah, we snuck down and they had their whole shoot set up and a bonfire and they were filming some sort of movie. That was wild.
That was absurd. I like thinking about that too. Like, there's just nothing that can fully prepare you mentally for the things that you'll see or experience in a place like China, um, and living there nonetheless. But you just have to experience it. Like, all of it is so unique. I mean, the whole five or so, 4.5 or 5 months that I spent there, that we all spent there, are some of my favorite stories to tell, some of my most memorable experiences of all time. I know for a fact I will never have such a unique 5 months again in a
Yeah.
row in my lifetime, and that's just something that I
Yeah,
mean,
because
it's hard to even put into words. I'm so thankful for it.
even during the worst, even during that month of just straight up, I was dead. Still,
Yeah,
I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like,
yeah, right. And it was such a growing experience for all those struggles too, because
yeah,
I mean, especially coming from St. Mary's, where the majority of students live on campus, and you don't have a commute to your classes other than like a 5 to 10 minute walk. Um, it it is a new experience in every way, and you have to force yourself to kind of grow up and take responsibility and really take control of the situation there.
and
And I grew for that so much. I was so much more independent upon returning, back to the States. I remember that. My mom pointed that out too. She's like, "You just seem like a lot more mature." And I was like, "Well, if you'd been through what I went through this past 5 months, you'd understand."
it's Shanghai is such a great place to do it too because it's a really safe city. It's an incredibly safe city. As long as you stay out of the streets.
Yeah, don't get hit by a scooter.
And it's an incredibly walkable city. You could go anywhere on such cheap public transport. Um, in a reasonable amount of time.
That's a really good, aspect of the developed cities in China is the public transport. I mean, it's a state of the art, train system, metro system, state of the art bullet train system. which I wish America would have things like
Right.
that. We are so lacking on that front. And so I remember feeling like an immense amount of freedom. And once we got our bearings, like we were saying, things became more comfortable. So once I felt comfortable in the city, the ability to then go anywhere you want, and like you
It's
hear about a place and you
crazy.
can go there the next day in a matter of like an hour or two on via the train and some walking. I mean, that was totally liberating
The
feeling.
city became so small, like, but in a good way. Like, it's you could really get anywhere. But it's like every metro stop felt like its own city.
It really did, yeah, and like they looked similarly, but they were very far from the other spots. Do you remember when we went to get cookies
Oh yeah,
at
that was the
what
longest.
was the cookie place called again?
Like strictly cookie or simply cookie or
Strictly
something.
Cookies, yeah.
Yeah.
That was such a long journey for chocolate chip cookies because at one point we had decided that we needed chocolate chip cookies, fresh baked chocolate
They were.
chip cookies.
Do you remember when we went back and they were closed? Like
No, I think you went back with someone else and they were
I
closed. I
went with
only went once.
I went with Ano, and they were closed.
It was, yeah, I remember hearing that, and you were kind of nonchalant at the time, and I was like, that's really devastating. Like, I didn't want to
It's
like
like a 3 hour
overwhelm.
trip. It took
Oh
us.
my gosh, oh, it was so long to go to this cute little cookie shop and like to meet an American woman, like
Yeah,
a
run by
Harvard
what? She's
business
like an
student.
MIT graduate.
She was, I thought she was like Harvard, maybe it was
It
MIT.
was some It was some
Yeah,
really like
right,
prestigious school.
absolutely. And she's just running like a fresh cookie shop in Shanghai, and she had a little dog there, and it
Mario.
did not look like it fit in. Was it Oreo?
Mario was the.
Mario. Oh my gosh, good memory. Um,
I've got a picture
y-
somewhere.
that was wild. And do you remember when we got off the train, we found like Fudan's like satellite campus? Do you
Yes.
remember that? We were like, it felt like we were in like another country. We were like, what is this
I felt
doing
like I was
here?
in the Twilight Zone. Like,
Yeah,
because
it was
we'd been on the train.
right. We got off the metro and it says Fudan. How big is this school? Yeah,
Because we'd been
like a
on line 10.
45-minute metro.
We rode line 10 like all the way down.
Fudan is still there. And it's funny because they actually are opening a metro stop at Fudan now. Do you remember how
I'm
they were
so
like doing
jealous.
construction for that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. There were so many little things like that. Back to the dragon boat thing and Huang Laoshe. He came. Do you remember he came to the dragon
Yes.
boat
Yeah, he was there
competition?
cheering.
Yeah, he was. That was one of the nicest, like, most intimate experiences I've ever had with a teacher. Like, he came out to like my sporting event and like we took some photos and talked, and he was like giving me advice about what to do in the final competition race, and it was special. I mean, there were just countless special things that happened at the during the experience.
Do you remember our trip that we took at like the mid-semester break? Um,
Yes,
where did
I
we?
couldn't tell you where we
I
went.
have no idea where we went. I've been trying to find where on earth we went.
I, I have no clue. I'll tell
Like
you that
like
much.
Jiangsu or something. I don't know. But we were in this.
Um, I don't think it was in Jiangsu province, no,
I have
because that's where Nanjing is.
right.
Um,
I have no
I
idea.
don't think it was. I don't know, which is I've
But
told people about this before, and they're like, "Oh, what like province?" And
no
I have no
idea.
clue.
It had a
I
tall
remember. I think the
waterfall.
name of the waterfall. I was about to bring that up. I think it was called like White Dragon Waterfall or
Yes,
something.
it was. And I've
And so I
searched
guess
that. I've Googled that to no end.
you can't find it
No. Because it was
because
supposed to be
I
like
was
the tallest waterfall in some part of China, and I've Googled that too.
yeah like one of the tallest like in China. That how did we not find it?
And that
How
was
do you
one of
not
the
find
best
anything?
experiences. That was total like serendipity because we were gonna go to this cave, and there'd been really heavy
Mm.
rains, and the roads were there'd been like mudslides. So we went to this waterfall instead, and we just sprinted up this whole trail, yelling, "Jayo, Jayo, Jayo! Add oil, keep going." Um,
Jiayo, which for those who don't know Chinese, jiayo means basically literally means add oil, but it's used as like a to cheer people on or to get them to keep fighting harder. And so we got there and it was rainy and it looked like kind of like a rainforest in this like these like dense woods, and we don't really know what's like where we are. We're told we're doing a hike. We walk up to it and then we see that there's like a small like stream, or like looks like a small river like going along the path, and it's raining, and we start walking on the path, and at some point we just like felt like going faster, like we really wanted to get to the
It
top,
was
and the
so
water was
stupid too.
rushing by us, right? It's like I didn't even feel tired the whole time. I was fueled by something that I've never felt before, like that motivation to get to the
Right.
top of
And
that hike.
I am not a fit person, and I was right there with you guys, just running all the way to the top. Like,
And I was wondering, I was like, oh man, like I've been dragon boating, I guess, like I've had some exercise. Like I wonder how Peyton's doing here. Like you were keeping up, and we were sprinting. Like I can't, like it's not
cannot
even an
emphasize how
exaggeration.
quickly
We were
we were going
running
up
as
this mountain.
fast as you physically could up a mountain with like steps and rocks and mud, like running as fast as we could, screaming Jiayo, passing Chinese people hiking this thing, and they're like hysterically laughing at us. And the water is rushing at our sides, like along the path in this river. And then we stopped like twice on the whole way up. And it was at like one little bridge where we saw like the whole side face of this like small,
Right.
like rocky looking mountain. And you can see the top of the waterfall. But it was like, it was like almost like a 90-degree rock face,
yeah, and then
water like coming down it.
like, and when we finally got to the top, you still couldn't see the top of the waterfalls. Like,
Right,
you just look up
right.
and it's clouds, and you can see like trees up there. And I'm like,
It was gorgeous. Yeah, it was so beautiful, and the waterfall itself at the top was just gushing down. It was beautiful. That was special. That was a really special experience.
And-
Yet another one, I might add.
and that trip, even the parts of that trip that weren't like that. Do you remember going? So we were hanging out in this town, this small town of 5 million people. Like the 6 or 7 of us walking
Tiny.
around looking for something to do. And the only thing going on in this whole town is people line dancing in the squares.
Also there was that like carnival.
Right, the weird little. Oh, right, we all rode the bull.
We rode first time I rode a mechanical bull.
And
Yeah,
last,
at this
like-
random carnival in China. Like, how did the mechanical bull travel there? Yeah, how do they have that? And they had those. We rode on the like flying swings, the thing that just swings around in circles. And it was just 4 of us. It was like me, you, Daniel, and
Well, I wasn't even on this. I didn't go on the swing thing.
Okay.
And remember, he let you guys ride again for free.
Anyways, yeah, we're wandering around this town, and there's like not that much to do, but then we stumble upon a carnival with like lights and rides and little kids everywhere. It seemed so random. And we rode on these like bumper car type things a little bit. And yeah, then we kept wandering. We went to get some alcohol. Remember, we went to this
Oh, yeah.
liquor store?
Well, we were looking for a bar. Remember, we
Yeah.
tried a couple places.
No bars.
No, the one bar that, remember their drink menu that they had none of? All they had was warm. They
yeah.
had like warm Budweisers for some reason.
Yeah, they just didn't have anything.
But they handed us their like cocktail menu, and we're like, "Can I have this?" No, we're out. Can I?
No.
But then we go to this.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
We go back to this like wine store. It's like a wine and cigar store with a like the stereotypical image of a bunch of old Chinese guys drinking baijiu and playing mahjong.
Yeah. Yeah. Smoky.
And we ask if we can drink there, and he's like, "Yeah, sure." So we buy, a pretty cheap bottle, like the cheapest one they have, and they bring out glasses and serve us around like a little plastic table. And
I think it was like cardboard boxes with like plastic on it. We're just sitting around drinking wine, and it's like
And eventually the owner comes over with they just give us another bottle of wine, a nicer one than the first one we had. And we just talked to him in this broken conversation for like an hour. And it was amazing because Daniel, to say a little something about him, his Chinese, while better than mine, was not the best of ours. But he was so good at communicating because the man had no hang-ups about just going for it.
Mm-hmm. I always tell people about him when I talk about language learning.
Because that's how you do it. He was just not afraid.
No. He was so confident. I've never seen such confidence with language. And like you said, he wasn't at like a fantastic level, but he used probably every word he knows in that conversation.
And some that he didn't.
Right, yeah, in like broken ways, yeah. But it worked, and we talked to these random people, and they thought we were hilarious. And do you remember, like, we looked over, and the guy at the desk was like taking a photo of us, and like we noticed, and he was so embarrassed.
That
I
was a,
mean, yeah,
that
like,
happened a lot.
yeah, it did, but it always does in China. I mean, but what's funny is like we felt like this place was strange, and then they imagine what they thought of us being there, like,
It was so amazing.
yeah.